biggest and most tangible threats to our society and our use of technology in the future is going to be around the privacy and the security of our information. And we can talk about credit card details, and we can talk about how we can place and enable information sharing, but if you just look at the rise and the impact of cyberbullying amongst young children who are trying to use technology, it breaks your heart. And I think, we can talk about nuanced and balanced risk decisions in a business context and information sharing. But you look at some tales of personal tragedy where abuse of an integrated global network of devices and information. I think, we owe it to ourselves to take this problem a lot more seriously than just talking about the ability to share information and the balance of risk. On that somewhat harsh note, there is a global, sophisticated, vertically integrated network, an industry which we estimate and we can think of, we can point our finger that it's worth about $130 billion annually. Gartner talked about the information security industry being worth about $84 billion. So there's a clear economic disadvantage there. The ability of that industry to perpetrate 122 cybercrimes a second globally. The ability to rip into personal bank accounts or national secrets, to break into your most personal details and use those against you, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on social media, whether it's your government or your other information. These are all things that I think are giving us a massive challenge. And when we think about the governments that we work with, the global organizations, these are areas that really, give us huge amount of sleepless nights. And it's something that we spend so much energy looking at day by day. What I was asked to do today was to think about the perspective not of delivering security for an organization, particularly not just of how we develop the right procedures and policies, not how we put in place some of those core security solutions and how we share information, but actually take a look and allow us to start the process about what are the cyber criminals doing, how are they acting, to feed us a little bit of hype maybe, give us some interesting anecdotes, and to allow us over the next couple of days to think about actually how would we start to combat those things that we're seeing. What I wanted to do was take us back to August, about 60 years ago, 7th of August, and one of the most innovative and exciting crimes of the century, or the past century. The mail train left Scotland for London. It was stopped at about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, somewhere in North Buckinghamshire. A gang of 17 great train robbers identified which of the 12 carriages contained a special packages carriage, which was travelling down at the end of a bank holiday weekend where they knew that that particular carriage would have 3 or 4 times the amount of value in it. And they proceeded to break into the carriage of the 72 staff that were spread across that train, the post office, the general post office train. They knew exactly which carriage it was, and they knew which of those 120 actual mail bags contained the information. They had inside knowledge. They knew exactly where the train was going to be, what it was going to happen, which carriage it was going to be. They stopped the train. They used a very sophisticated packet network thing. They wired up the red light to a battery and clipped the green light thing so that the train stopped. What they failed to do was to do what current cyber criminals are absolutely brilliant at. They failed to get in and out quickly. The cordon stopped them getting away. They holed up in a farmhouse. It was beautiful, actually. If you've got $60 million and you've got to wait in a farmhouse and you're sitting around listening to the police radios trying to work out what's happening, they played Monopoly with real money. I thought that was pretty cool. So when the police found the farmhouse, they found the Monopoly board and they found the real money in the bag. I thought it was nice. But again, criminal stupidity caused these guys, most of them, to get caught. They went to Paris, they moved to Australia, to Chile, they changed their names, their faces, and most of them spent 20 to 30 years in prison. Some of them didn't, and some of those guys have been immortalized in film. However, they weren't able to get away. They weren't anonymous, and they weren't able to perpetrate their attack not physically. And that's something that, that's the story that I think exhibits a lot of what's great and what's innovative and special about how cybercrimes happen, but also some of the things that we're able to put right now. And that's one of the biggest challenges. So the combination of crime, drug cartels, and cyber cartels is starting to become a law enforcement challenge. There's a story we'll talk about in a little while, but I wanted to draw ourselves, let me get the quote, because I think it's quite valid. The city of Antwerp has one of the largest container ports in the world. Over the last 2 years, during the last 2 or 3 years, the IT systems in those container ports were compromised by a drug cartel. And that allowed them to route and ship large quantities of drugs directly through the port, and allowed members of their gangs just to pick them up and take them away. And so a driver would turn up, he'd say, I've got a manifest for this particular shipment. They'd say, great, off you go. Now sometimes it was picked up by the real people, the valid people. And in one case, that driver was killed and the stuff was stolen. And just 1 ton of cocaine they seized had a street value of $213 million. So absolutely significant. And the head of Interpol talked about it, and he said, we have effectively a service-orientated industry where organized crime groups are paying for specialist hacking skills they can acquire online. So again, hype may be actual things that are happening day by day. And I think it was relevant as we think about the explosion of online participation. There's about 7 billion people in the world today. That's going to grow a little bit over the next couple of years. By 2020, we think there'll be about 5 billion people online. If only a tiny proportion of those new online participants have the skills and act on them to be cyber criminals, we think there'll be about 1 million new hackers in the world by 2020. Now that is, it's a statistic, but it's an indication of exactly what's happening. If we think about the war for talent, we just released our latest cyber risk report, where we look at some of the key indicators of what's happening and whether we're finding zero-day exploits and how we're finding malware. And actually, we're not finding more than we used to. We're standing still to some extent. Now, is that because the code is being written more securely? I don't think so. I think it's because other people are finding them. We bounty. We have 3,000 security researchers in our network, and we bounty them. We gave them $8 million to find these things. But other people are paying more. There's a talent war out there, and that malware can be bought and sold online. So you have to ask yourself, is anywhere really safe? We're all targets. I paint a target on my chest every time I stand up here and talk about it, and I'm the subject of all sorts of horrible things. And we talk about air gaps. We talk about taking the most valuable information assets we have and putting an air gap. Well, is 370 miles in the sky a big enough air gap? How secure is NASA? How secure is the International Space Station? Well, arguably not that secure. In a congressional hearing I think last year or the year before, earlier last year, I can't remember, 2014, 13, I don't know which year it is anymore. Criminal networks had almost complete control of NASA networks. The International Space Station had malware placed on it. They were running an outdated version of Windows. They reckon it came on a USB key that one of the Russian cosmonauts put in. But allowed them to have control of the algorithms that ran critical parts of the International Space Station. These are things that happen every day. And you don't have to be an oil and gas major or a bank or a government to be targeted for these things. And yes, it's about people, and it's about, there is no patch for people. People are the critical element. So NASA, it's an old organization. They've got processes that go back 50 years, and people are the key. All of our, most of our lives, our online lives, our personal lives are available. They're available if you want to dig hard. They're also available if you want to buy them. For less than the price that it cost me to come into London today on the train, I could buy pretty much anybody's credit card details, home address, social security numbers, health records possibly, certainly a swipe of all their credit cards. And I can do that not just randomly. I can buy 1 million or 100,000 records, but I can pick the towns within which I want those things, and I can buy them on an online forum. I can get online tech support for my tailored malware that I rent by the hour or by the minute. I get a performance dashboard which shows how effective my malware has been. All of these things are targeted. And what are we doing? We keep building the walls higher. We keep investing in perimeter devices. We keep thinking that if we put more security controls on top of the security controls we already have, we might get better. If we get a little bit more investment in stopping people getting in, maybe let's focus on passwords. Maybe it's all about the password strength. Well, to some extent it is, but 80% of the IT spend, in our research, tells us that it's been spent to stop people getting in. And I think stopping people getting in is a game we gave up a while ago. We want to be open, we want people to engage, we want people to share information and work in flexible ways. So stopping people getting in is a bit of a nonsense, I believe. You have to follow an in-depth strategy because people are already inside and they're already on your networks. Again, some of the work that we've seen, you will, as an organization, the cost at a breach, you will be the last person to find out about that breach. 94% of breaches are notified by a third party. So you'll read it in the news. Maybe the FBI will tell you. Maybe it was GCHQ. Maybe it'll be law enforcement. Maybe somebody will say, I got an email from you. I don't think I recognised your thing. It seemed very strange, Andrei. What you said, was that you? I think it might have been, somebody may have hacked my email address. But they're already inside. And it's taking us much longer to respond to those things. So an example of the $60 million heist, an example of the Great Train Robbery today, or last year, was a gang of criminals who broke into a couple of banks in the Middle East. They used valid credentials that they'd obtained through the route we've just talked about. They took 12 account numbers, 2 banks, 12 account numbers. They changed the limits on those account numbers for prepaid credit cards. They changed the limits to unlimited, and they sent the details out to, I think, 27 countries, to teams, cashier teams, who then took a machine, took the credit card, put the information on that credit card, and walked from ATM to ATM, taking out the balance, the amount of money they could. Now, we've seen the track in New York. They walked right up 4th Avenue, going to every ATM, taking the money out, putting it in the pocket, taking the money out, putting it in the pocket. We know they took $48 million in a short amount of time, but we reckon actually the amount that complete traceable was about 60. In Tokyo, you can take out nearly £10,000, I think, from an authorized card. Now that's fairly audacious, but a fairly simple hack. Again, 27 countries, 5,000 ATMs. What they were able to do, exactly what the Great Train Robbers did, but they did it anonymously, they did it quickly, they were able to get in and out. And that's just an example of, don't steal the money, steal the method of getting the money. Now, if I find them, well, some of these guys were found, mostly, again, through criminal stupidity. They took a picture posted it on social media of them in a car with a bag of cash. Thank God they're not all super geniuses. There are some pretty stupid criminals around. But those are the guys you give the card to go and take the ATM stuff out. Why put yourself at risk? But what we learn and what we know, and let's just go through this, that there's a very clear kill chain. And if we're able to disrupt this kill chain and understand it, then we can make very informed decisions. We don't have to sit and think about policy and process. We can think about moving the stance onto a very different footing. So what we see is, again, that first stage is about research. The vast majority of attacks use valid credentials. Those credentials are got through us as individuals or our accounts. We're able to research the phishing, all of those different things. What was your password? Let me sort that out for you. I'll give you it as an example earlier on. So once you own a credential and you own an account, you can break in very easily. We talked about the perimeter being almost non-existent. And again, if you know only a tiny little bit about what's happening, you know that this is very easy to do. And this is where I think it starts to get very concerning for us, because crawling around your network, giving time to understand what those valuable data assets are, being given the time to understand how to capture different parts of information is what we're doing at the moment. We're giving the cyber criminals that time. It's come down, but about 243 days is the average that people remain undetected on a network if they know what they're doing. We're not good at understanding those things, understanding and recognizing when people's wandering around our network. And even when we do find them and they're able to capture information and data and take it out, again, we're not the first people to recognize that. And they take it out. It's exactly what happened with the ATM heist. It's exactly what happens every day. It happens with secrets and credit card details, whether you're in South Korea or London or Michigan. And that cyber kill chain is common. It's repeated. There's all sorts of different versions. Lockheed did them. Everyone else has a view of it. But we use it as a way of understanding what the mindset of these guys is doing. And if you can try and disrupt them at each stage of that kill chain, then you're able to take a different stance rather than just say, we put some firewall rules in place, we'll try and protect the data there. Be able to integrate right across the piece is vital, and think about how we can do that. So being able to take proactive research against them, being able to reinforce passwords authentication against individuals and systems, not just individuals anymore, putting in place the right monitoring technologies and solutions and security operations centers to identify and reduce that 243-day window. Once things occur, we've got worse over the last 10 years at responding. So each breach costs on average, I think, again, our latest study said it costs about $11 million per breach. It's 122 a week most organizations are being hit with in terms of attacks. But really worrying for me is the fact that in 2010, it would take us 2 weeks to respond to a major or sophisticated breach. That's been pushed out to 32 days. That's a month to get back up and running after something's happened. Changing how we work together, and something we talk about called Threat Central. It's been working on in HP Labs for several years, and we sort of bring it out of the back room and out of the basement. We've given it a lick of paint, and it's a way of sharing threat information. One of the things that if all of us shared all the information we had, all of the attack vectors, all of the the intelligence we had, we were in a much better place because absolutely the cyber criminals are sharing that information day by day. That's why they're so agile. And Threat Central is one of the things that we're very proud of. And
the going was good. 2 bank heists in a row, done exactly the same way, and the second bank still doesn't know what hit them. 45 million is sweet, but it's even more fun watching them make the same mistake over and over again. They take the information about how we got in and what data we're after and seal it away. They don't like to share that information with other organizations. Perfect. We'll just keep pounding away. But now, HP, we see you're creating a new platform where enterprises are sharing knowledge about us, our tactics, how we got in, who we are. Which means you're starting to figure us out.
But we are starting to figure them out. We're understanding the kill chain, and I think, let me just sort of close with some of the things that we've learned and some of the ways that we're organizing our capability and our partners are working with our clients. A single view of threat, locally and globally, is absolutely vital to understanding and combating what happens. Threat Central is part of that. We've got a global network of 3,000 researchers, global security operations centers are able to track this stuff and work with people. And we do it. It's not for profit. You can all take part in this. You can all benefit from it. All of the zero-day information that we find, we publish online, we share with vendors. Now, this isn't something that we aim to make money from. Of course, it's an amazing capability, but we'll share it with everybody we can. I think the second thing is understanding that kill chain and trying to disrupt the adversary at every stage. Now, a lot of those things, it's about, it is about process, but there are technology solutions you can put in place to do that. absolutely understanding how you are able to monitor and see what happens when people are on your network, and each stage. And then when something happens, not if, how quickly can you respond? So disrupting the adversary is absolutely vital. Managing risk, I could spend hours, days, and weeks and months talking about the balance between risk and agility, business agility, about how you articulate business versus information risk, and all, all of those different parts. It's a fascinating and a thorny problem, and we weren't able to do that this morning, but we'll probably do that over the next couple of days. But managing the information risks means you've got to understand your information and the value it has, both positively and negatively, and putting in place the processes to do that. And that's something that a lot of our consulting teams, are unduly interested and excited about. And I think cyber capability, that the talent war is something that's very real. And one of the biggest things we are now interested to know what the guys on the panel think or thought. Do you have enough talented people in your organisation who can help you with security? Are you really supported when you turn to your security teams and vendors? Do you think you're getting global, up-to-date, valid support and capability? And a lot of the time, people aren't. You're having to turn around and ask questions because it's a very understaffed industry, because it's a world where the good talent pool is much shallower and more thinly spread than the bad talent pool. And we are playing catch-up. So I think it's very important to help extend your capability through partners by working together in communities of interest and with, of course, with the odd vendor or two, but actually by working together with other people in a similar situation. And I think, after what may have seemed like a sort of a serious hype-ridden doom and gloom look at security, and it's a view that I see. We are getting better. We are getting a lot better. We're understanding how to do all of those things. And there are often simple steps that you can take and are taking to prevent some of those major abuses and attacks. So I think my time may be up, but thank you very much. And we really look forward to